Thank you so much to all of you for coming to send our crazy friend Joy Richardson off into the yonder, wherever she is. I know she's here with us. And I just wanted to give a few housekeeping, just really thank High Point Equestrian Center for donating this facility for this celebration. I am so honored, and as many of you know, Joy was a big part in getting this whole thing established. So it's just wonderful to be here. And I just wanted to thank some of our sponsors too. Country Feeds in Alder Grove, Otter Co-op in Alder Grove, the BC Sport Horse Breeders Group, the Artful Dodger Pub, myself, Uli Dargal, Jim Kerwin, Yvonne Allen, Dan Hare, Ashley Moore, and Alicia Melachinsky, Carousel Video, who also donated their time to video this event for Joy's family to be able to watch it in England, which is very nice of them. And Dan Hare, who is showing us some beautiful music and serenading us. My name is Borgirano, in case any of you don't know me. I've been in this horse industry for 40+ years, and Joy was a big part of that career all along.
My name is Jim Kerwin, and I came out here in 1991 from Ontario, where we showed horses, and I just got my 204th horse last year, a little rescue mare. Anyways, I met Joy at the Quarter Horse, so I thought the best place to meet people would be to go to the Quarter Horse Association. I went there, and I said my name was Kerwin, and she says, "Oh, Kerwin, Charlie bred to a Kerwin horse." And it was Sir Quincy Kerwin, which was related to Sir Quincy Day. And that's how we met. And then it carried on from there. We had a few problems. I can tell you, I don't want to get into it all, but I drove with her a few times. And I guess one of the first things when she almost killed me, it's not funny, she did. I was at a horse show, I think it was Milner Downs, and we were waiting for this class, and I'm really highly allergic to bees, and I put my hand up on the tent thing and I got stung. And I gave myself my shot, and I said to Joy, "I gotta get to the hospital in 15 minutes. "Oh, don't be silly, Jimmy. Sit down and we'll see who wins this class." So I did. And then I said, you know, I couldn't hardly talk. And I said, "I have to get to a hospital." So she takes me to a clinic. And all they do is shove these pills down me. And then the doctor, he says, "Well, I think you better call an ambulance." So they took me to White Rock, and then they gave me more crap, and I thought my head was going to blow off. But then the next, 2 days after, she says, "I almost killed you, didn't I, Jimmy?" And I said, "Yeah, you did." So my next many experiences, let me see, I got to think. Oh, I know one Uli wanted me to tell. It was my time, I was getting my mare that I had bred and raised out here to be into the Sport Horse Association, and Joy took the mare for me, and I came later on because they had something else to do. At the end of the show, she said, "You can come ride with me," unknowing, and I go there, and she says, "Bring the horse out." I go, and the trailer's parked on the side of the road, half on, half on. I said, I can't get I'm not putting the horse in that trailer. So she pulled up a little bit further, and we got the horse in, and we're driving along, and then she's like, the steering wheel, it's like this. And I thought, my God, like how could she drive? I said, "You need a pillow under your butt." she said, don't, her famous words to me, oh, don't be silly, Jimmy. And so anyways, we went driving along, and I said, can't we go faster? And she says, we're going fast enough, and she argued with me. But I remember coming down 2/16, and we got to 16th, and then we're going on. And usually on 16th, you're going faster, you know, you see the trees going by. My trees were going like this, and there's a big lineup behind us, about 4 cars or more, and then this big truck honking and honking, and I said, you gotta pull over to the side and let these people by. Oh, F them, she said. Unaccustomed as I was to swearing, I said, you're effing right. No, I didn't. But anyway, so then we get to 208, and we're a little bit of a hill, and we started, it could only go 30 kilometers, the car. In a 60, you know, I'm pulling a trailer. So we're going down the hill. I said, oh good, we're going to get going. So we come up, and I don't know whether we're going to make it up the hill. And at 200, we're going to turn. And the lights there, and I thought, we're going to roll backwards, you know, down the hill there. And the horns are honking. So then the light turned. We were waiting for a bit, and it was green and then red. And there's this big frickin' truck coming this way. And all of a sudden we turned in front of the truck. I said, that truck's coming. She says, yeah, but it's got the red light. And I said, you got the red light. And that was the first time I ever sharded. I don't know if you know. If you don't know what a shard is, it's Gaelic for a wet fart. So then we drove home, we were driving down 200, and I says, you don't have your lights on, do you not have any running lights? She says, no, they don't work. And I said, well, does the brake work? She says, well, let me see, you know, and it didn't work. We made it in my slippery pants all the way to 8th Avenue, drove in, and that was my one story with Joy. The other time she backed over me in the backyard with the truck. But I was sort of prepared for it, so I sort of rolled with it. And one other time, oh, I know, I was showing the horse at, anyways, wherever the hell it was. And I'm showing him in halter, it was Winsong, and she's running along the gate with me and saying, do this, Jimmy, do that, you know, everything. And I said, F off. And she said, are you talking to me? Then we became good friends. The last time she got somebody else to show her horse, and we were sitting there, and some poor woman said, well, this girl was supposed to show my horse for me. So Joyce said, oh, Jimmy will do it. So anyways, I showed it. And I was used to showing quarter horse, and you know, you place her feet and all that stuff. And the other guys were just in jeans and shirts and not dressed the way I thought they should be dressed, but anyways.
They weren't turned out.
No, they weren't. So I picked the feet and the tail and pulled it over and everything, and we won the class, and we beat her horse, and then we went into the champ, and we got grand champion. So when I came out, and she said, Jimmy, you overshowed that horse. So, I could go on with more, but I won't. But anyway, she was a really good friend of mine, and I was with her almost to the end, a couple of days before, and when she was in Peace Portal place, she just lived up the street from me at her other home after 8th Avenue. And I was in the hospital, not the hospital, Peace Portal, and she was still into the horses, you know, talking about, and she'd been watching the telly. she calls it. And she said, what's going on with the horse business in BC? And I says, everything. I blame blueberry patches and everything. But what she said was, you know, I've been watching the television, and she said, in the United States, in the high schools and that, they have rodeos and even dressage and stuff like that. She says, why don't we do that in Canada? And I says, nobody's interested. So she said, you do it. So, yeah, let's get it started, you know, because the horse business started falling apart here. And we don't have enough pastures or grass, and we can't afford it. You know, it's just too expensive. Where I came from in Ontario, the people had arenas. They donated arenas for a horse show. Until finally we were able to buy our own property, and it's doing very well. But anyways, I love Joy, and it's so nice meeting all you guys. And I'm going to be 84 pretty soon, but I'm still riding. So.
I tried to see if Joe Hardy could come, but he had to go out of town. So I said, why do you send me a letter? Which he did. So he says, dear Willie, please accept our gratitude for including the Pacific Heartlands Foundation in your celebration of life with Joy Richardson. I am sending this letter as I am not able to be with you all today, but I do want to recognize Joy and the work she has done for the spirit of the horse garden. My time working with Joy only goes back a few years, but Joy has worked with other staff in the past, and I'm sure we all would agree that Joy was as spirited as her horses. Joy always made horses and the spirit of the horse garden her first priority. She called me many times to tell me how I could be doing a better job. I never felt offended by that, as I know Joy had a good heart and her motives were good. She shall be missed. With Joy's passing comes a new era, and the spirit of the horse garden will need new champions. If anyone would like to donate to the garden in memory of Joy, we have set up a donation page for the spirit of the horse garden. This is something that we will publish later on. And also, as far as plaques are concerned, if anyone is interested in obtaining a plaque for your horse to be added to the spirit of the horse, please contact the Pacific Foundation. They are the ones where you ordered through. This is what I was informed. But as I said, after this celebration, Borgie and some others will get together and see how we can get the spirit of the horse going as far as volunteers. And I appreciate the vintage riders helping with the garden. Very much appreciated.
And I feel so blessed to know Josephine. She's one of our oldest dressage judges, and she's an incredible rider and horsewoman, and we're so happy to have her here speaking some words about Joy. And it was her birthday this week. Happy birthday, Josephine.
Thank you, everybody. Well, like Jim Kerwin, I could tell a million stories, I guess what stands out in my mind the most was whenever we were at a show and we were showing riding classes, wherever I was, she would find me and go, Josephine, get over here, that's not right, they can't be showing in that. And then we'd look around and we'd find Uli, and Uli would just go like, no. So much in all, as she did so much for so many in this community and was an inspiration to many, many, many young riders, old riders, and in between. And a wonderful person, but having said all that, she was a shit disturber. And now Virginia Allen has a few words she would also like to say. Before I let Virginia come up, I don't know that a lot of you remember Heath Purdy, but she also couldn't make it today and said please mention it because she could have told a few Joy stories as well. So I'll turn it over to you, Virginia.
kind, and it was a privilege to know her, even though at those sport horse shows when I saw her coming, I used to sometimes kind of go the other way because there was usually some discrepancy that she was not liking, and she was pretty vocal about it. But you really have to admire someone that follows through in all that she did, and she was a wonderful person. Thank you.
Come up here today, but something just caught my mind. I was first elected in 1987, that's not that long ago. And when I was first elected, Joy, I go on my 8th term tomorrow. And when Joy came in, Mr. Ferguson, you've got an awful lot to learn. So she said that to me. And what I wanted to say, the reason why I'm here, is she came up to myself and Mel Kositsky and former Mayor John Schultens. And she said to us, do you know the border sand and gravel pit? Oh yeah, we know that's designated as a landfill for the future. She said, no, Mr. Ferguson, that's going to be an equestrian community. I said, John Schultens, I don't know if anybody knows John, when he gets nervous, he starts blinking. So I kind of looked over there, John's blinking like crazy. And sure enough, she got together, I guess, with a guy by the name of Roy Hutchinson and the Cressy people and a few others, and some people perhaps in this room, and I know Steve Tidball had something to do with it, and the Tidball family. And you know what? Look what we have today. This High Point, the equestrian community, and everything else was Joy's dream. So isn't that great? Hey, one for Joy.
Well, I never met Joy. I never knew her, but I did read her book. I can't recall what the name of it is. Borgie would know, and in fact, I got it from Borgie. A most interesting story, and told in a very personable way. One of the things that I recall from this, new horse people would identify with this, I guess. In the early days of her showing horses, and it probably was with Gentry, because she was not very experienced at that time. She was in the ring, and I guess there was a line up there, and the judge was judging every horse, and he was going by, and he kind of set aside to her dropping, and then went on to the next, kind of ignored her, and she was kind of wondering what was this. She wasn't aware of this. And I guess it was sometime later that she found out that it meant that her horse was dropping. In other words, his penis was coming in. And I guess this is not allowed. Anyway, the cure for that she found out, and I don't know where this came, was a water pistol. So logistically, I don't know how that would work. If you're on a horse, you'd have to kind of peek and take a little shot once, whatever. Anyway, that was a cure. I could have used that to some benefit when I was in elementary school, for sure. Those strips up to the blackboard sometimes were kind of embarrassing, as a lot of young guys would know. Anyway, she was the most memorable person, I'm sure. I would have loved to meet her. Read her book if you can get hold of it.
I won't be too long. I want to say a few words about Joy, and that is impossible. You can't say a few words about Joy. Now, I haven't been in the horse world with Joy. I was in her personal life for 37 years. I helped her buy her first farm. That's a story in itself. I picked out 3. One was good. She took the one that wasn't, even though she had to buy water for 25 years. But she loved it there. We all loved visiting her there. And she was a strong personality. We all know that. It's left a real hole in my heart now that she's gone. The last 10 years I've spent a lot of time with her, helping her through the tough years. She was a spirit. She was a legend in her own time. We love her before her time. She, there wasn't anything she couldn't do what she set her mind to do. There wasn't anything anybody else could do to stop her. Anyway, she does have her garden, where she is now laid to rest. When her son and family came from England, we made sure that happened. It's been a great ride, Joy. I'm glad I was on it with you.
Hi, I'm Catherine. I met Joy in '94 when I worked for continuing education when it was Quantum College, and I had talked to her about wanting an equine technology program at the college, and she did encourage me to try to get that happening. It did happen in a way, and someone else led it. But I didn't meet her again until years later, and I had been back to England. I'm also from England, and I ended up riding her horses, Echo and Winsong, and she used to drive me nuts. She was always telling me I was doing the rising trot wrong, that I must sit for 2 beats. I'm like, Joy, that's not right. It's alternating beats. And I rode Echo in dressage. And I had her on the sidelines nagging me. But I also, for a while, I rented a row of stalls at Samiana Stables, and I took care of Winsong and Echo. And she drove me nuts. We were arguing, I don't even remember what we were arguing about. We were arguing about something, and I had never, well, okay, once in my life, it wasn't until I was 32 that I had ever used the F word to somebody and told them to off. I saw red, and I had a feet bowl in my hand, and I threw it on the floor, and I said, Joy, off. Well, Kat, you can off too, and then I was split between being like really angry with her and wanting to laugh at this little itty bitty white-haired old lady that's using the F word to me, because it was hilarious. Anyway, we made up, we were okay. But I always recognized something in her that reminded me of my own dad. My dad's the same age. He's actually a month younger than her. And my dad was in the RAF. He was in Singapore. I think he was age 20 when the Japanese surrendered. And there's a lot of behavioral attitudes that so I felt this kinship with her. She also reminded me of one of my grandmothers that always rubbed me the wrong way as well, but taught me a lot. And I always wanted to introduce my dad to her. I thought it would be really neat to hear those two talk to each other. And my dad, at his age, he's nearly 93, he still travels back and forth between the UK and here every year, sometimes twice a year. He is actually out here again. But last year when he was out, and Joy was in a different home for more, he did more care because she had fallen. I think it was it pelvic or hip fracture she sustained. And I had always wanted to take my dad. I took my dad to see Joy. Oh. And my dad was sitting there, and Joy is talking horses to me, and how is your horse? Because she loves my horse. My horse is just like Winsong. He's a great big dapple gray, and she'd met him when Jimmy took him to the barn that his horse is at. So, and subsequently gave me a halter for him that I really appreciated. And I took my dad there. I kind of put a stop to the horse business, because the horse talk, and I said, Joy, my dad was in the RAF. He was in Singapore when the Japanese surrendered. And I'm like, Dad, Joy was a Ren. And it was like, whoop, they're looking at each other, and suddenly they're talking fast, and they're sharing memories and all kinds of things, and they were so cute. And then Joy said, oh, Henry, are you single? And yes, I am. My wife has passed away. And she said, oh, I would really like it if you could visit again. So I thought that was so cute that she would like make a pass at my dad at that age. Yeah. So yeah, I miss Joy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa McBurney. I own a farm local here with some nice horses on it, of course. And I had Joy out to our place to visit one time with a group of ladies with the BC Sport Horse. And there was someone there taking our picture, a group picture with all of us there, with my nice stallion in the back. And just as we were standing there preparing for the picture, everyone, of course, was oohing and awing how beautiful he was. And of course, when you do that, he drops. Now this picture isn't up here, and I'm glad, because my face was so red, because Joy turned next to me and looked and said, boy, I wish I could have a piece of that. I turned really red just as I took the picture, and I just, like I say, I'm glad. I've never seen that picture published.
Hi, my name's Terry, and my dad and I were in the horse industry for a number of years. We bred sport horses. I also have an artistic background, and I painted a painting for a raffle for a fundraiser for Silver Swan Horse Show once. And as you probably know, Joy was also a journalist. And I was at a horse show one day, and she wanted to interview me. So I'm okay. And she wrote this stuff about me. And when I read it, I thought, she said, oh, Terry's an artist. She has a studio in her home, and she breeds horses. And part of that equation was wrong. I didn't have a studio in my home, although I did breed horses. And later on, like so many other things Joy said came true. And that came true. Now I'm an artist with a studio with horses. There you go.
Down with my pony in the barn last night. I dreamed that we could touch the stars. I dreamed that we could fly. I sank into his body as the cold air brushed my face. I breathed in slow, my mind let go as quietly we lay. Soon we were running through fields under starry, starry skies, running so fast, so hard that we started to take flight, climbing way up high. My pony took me flying last night. We came so close upon the sun, I could feel its beaming rays. And when I opened up my eyes, we were covered in hay. For a moment I remembered, then it started to fade. Flashes of my magic dream until we were awake, running through fields under starry, starry skies, running so fast, so hard that we started to take flight, climbing way up high. My pony took me flying. My pony took me flying last night. We ran dreamed that we could touch the stars. I dreamed that we could fly. I sank into his body as the cold air brushed my face. I breathed in slow, my mind let go as quietly we lay. Soon we were running through fields under starry, starry skies, running so fast, so hard that we started to take flight, climbing way up high. My pony took me flying last night. We came so close upon the sun, I could feel its beaming rays. When I opened up my eyes, we were covered in haze. For a moment I remembered, then it started to fade. Flashes of my magic dream until we were.
It's too tall.
I'm Shelley Fraser. I met Joy in the later part of her life, although I do remember as a young person, the hunt used to be held out on Zero Avenue. And I remember hearing about this crazy English woman that was riding an extremely beautiful horse in the hunt. Little to be known later in life that this was Joy. It explained a lot. So we all meet people in our certain stages of life, and I knew Joy, some knew Joy in her early years, some during the mid-span of her life, and as for myself, I knew her most in her latter years. She had first focused her love of horses in Canada, starting with her beloved quarter horses, especially Gentry and Pally, whom she so loved. Then she started with the sport horses and became a great supporter of this breeding organization. Nothing that you haven't heard before today. There was another side of Joy that you may or may not know that I wish to share with you. Believe it or not, it was her love of God. And many times we would have great conversations about him, his love for us, and his all-abiding grace. The spark that drove the sleigh. I'm so emotional. Throughout her life would just be a little brighter as we shared these moments. In the conversation, she invited me to a little church called the Brookswood Baptist, and although I was attending another at the time, I would on occasion meet her there for a service. It was a great time of deeper fellowship with Joy. It is now my home church, and I have Joy to thank for that. Now, I know this part sometimes did not always shine with Joy. She could express her displeasure in not such a Christian way, especially if the ribbon was the wrong color and the judge got it wrong for sure. I remember one time she was on this particular subject and I pulled her aside and I advised her that it was a bit hard for people to see the love of our Lord when she was knocking the judge, fellow competitors, and their horses. She stopped, looked at me with her bright blue eyes, and said, "Quite right," thanked me, and she seemed to settle, and everything seemed to be good, and then the next class came along, and wrong color ribbon, and away she went again. All I could think of was his great grace for Joy and all of us. One other time the faith came to the forefront with me and Joy was a winter night that I rode with her to a meeting at someone's house in the country. I cannot remember exactly whose place it was, but I will never forget the ride there. Joy, I discovered while she was driving, did not see well in the dark. This is the faith part for both of us. 50 miles an hour was a good speed all the way there for her. And of course, as we all know, 80 miles per hour is the norm for the Fraser Highway. And as I looked in the rearview mirror, I gently suggested that maybe we should take another route. It was getting a bit tense. It did take a little bit longer, but we made it safely. I think it was, I did ask her when we were after the meeting if maybe I could take my turn and drive us home. And although Joy did not say anything, when I asked if that was all right, I think she was quite relieved herself, and from then on, I drove to the meetings with Joy. I believe her famous driving excursions to see her horse is well known, and the hand of her loving Savior was with her as much of the times as on those of the road with her. I look at Joy's life later and ponder the love of those who were with there for her, whether visiting her, making sure she was being taken care of, taking care of her horse beyond what they had to do, and just caring about her. And now putting together this celebration of life and coming to remember her, this is where I believe the greatest sign of God's love for Joy shines. He never stopped caring of her by providing the kindness of these special people. You all are and were a true blessing to her. I hope I get to the stage that I too will be surrounded by such wonderful folk. I'd like to say this prayer. Dear Father, thank you for this day. You provide so much, and you love your children with patience and grace that is so amazing. Sometimes even hard to understand, especially in our imperfection and humanities, that do not reflect all who you are and would like us to be. We come together, Lord, to remember one of your children who now stands with you. Your presence surrounds her, and I'm sure you will be in a conversation with her about her life, the good, the bad, her loves and passions, her kindnesses and failures. Your grace that is promised and given freely is with her. Whether she is with the angels singing your praises or riding with you through the meadows of your heavenly kingdom, she is now at peace, and through seeing her humanity and your love for her, may we all have hope and a closeness with you, so we too can come to the meadows and ride with our glorious King. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Well done, Joey.
And I want to mention foremost a friend of mine, a dear friend of Joy's that cannot be here today. Her name is Linda Ann Bowman. She was tied up in her travel plans, and she is currently in Arizona and not able to attend, so she wanted to pass that on to me that I could share. I am a friend of Joy's, and ironically this morning, I picked up a coffee mug. It says, "Live, love, and teach." So that had some impact on me this morning as I walked into this room and, this whole event. And Joy taught me so many things. I met Joy back in, must have been 1995 or 6. I was riding up my horse up into Campbell Valley Park off of 8th Avenue, and there she was at the corner. Like, where are you going? Well, where do you go? You're going to Campbell Valley Park or ride. It's just, well, why don't you just come on in, we'll meet and have tea. And we did. We had tea many times over and over and over again. So learning about Joy's life and her experiences and what she was all about really inspired me to take on part of my life, a new part that I was probably a little bit fearful of, and as Joy would do, I did it anyways. So I started to write, create. Sometimes we'd bash kids back and forth because, when you're creative that way, you'll always have your opinions. We did. We did a lot of work together. My last days with her was when I was reading her part of a chapter of a book I'm writing presently, and she said, "Yvonne, continue on, write that book. 1/2 hour every day, put pen to paper, and continue to write." And in the meantime, I did that, and we produced a lot of music. I miss her so dearly, so much.
People, we're celebrating this amazing horse lady that joined all the other ones that were before her. We love you, Joy.
Yes.